Good evening and welcome to News Night on Metro TV. Up next is the headlines. And in the headlines, today marks 21 years of September 11 terrorist attacks in the United States, claiming almost 3,000 lives, including 4 Ghanaians. We will assess progress made and strategies to deal with emerging threats. President Nana Akufo-Addo begins a 2-day working visit to the Volta region from Monday, September 12. Leadership of the Ghana Private Roads Transport Union hints of new transport fare soon. And in business, we will tell you why, for the first time since 1990, 90% of countries saw their Human Development Index decrease in 2020 and 2021. On the international front, Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrives in Edinburgh after being greeted by thousands of people, completing a 6-hour journey from Balmoral Castle. Hello and welcome again. Let's jump into the details. Today marks 21 years anniversary of the September 11 terrorist attacks in the United States of America, claiming almost 3,000 lives, including 4 Ghanaians. On the occasion to commemorate the day this year, President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, has stressed on the importance of guarding the democracy being enjoyed by Americans.
Terror struck us in that brilliant blue morning. The air filled with smoke, and then came the sirens and the stories. Stories of those we lost, stories of the incredible heroism from that terrible day. The American story itself changed that day. But what we did change, what we will not change, what we cannot change, never will, is the character of this nation that the terrorists thought they could wound. And what is that character? The character of sacrifice and love, of generosity and grace, of strength and resilience. In the crucible of 9/11, in the days and months that followed, we saw what stuff Americans are made of. And millions of young men and women from across the nation responded to 9/11 attacks with courage and resolve, signing up to defend our Constitution and joining the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. And in the years since 9/11, hundreds of thousands of American troops have served in Afghanistan, Iraq, and so many other places around the world to deny terrorists a safe haven and to protect the American people, to properly prepare and equip those that we send into harm's way and care for those and their families when they come home, and to never, ever, ever forget, through all that has changed over the last 21 years, the enduring resolve of the American people to defend ourselves against those who seek us harm and deliver justice to those responsible for the attacks against our people has never once faltered. It took 10 years to hunt down and kill Osama bin Laden, but we did. And this summer, I authorized a successful strike on Zawahiri, the man who bin Laden was his deputy at 9/11, who was the leader of al-Qaeda, because we will not rest. We'll never forget. We'll never give up. And now Zawahiri can never again threaten the American people. In 20 years after Afghanistan is over, but our commitment to preventing another attack in the United States is without end. Our intelligence, defense, and counterterrorism professionals in the building behind me and across the government continue their vigilance against terrorist threats that has evolved and spread to new regions of the world. We'll continue to monitor and disrupt those terrorist activities wherever we find them, wherever they exist, and we'll never hesitate to do.
And still on the September 11 events, 19 militants associated with Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airplanes and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. We soon will be assessing progress made since the deadly incident and strategies to deal with emerging threats. Before then, though, here is a desk report on what happened that fateful day and other related fallouts.
On September 11, 2001, at 8:45 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second flight appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and onto the streets below. It immediately became clear that America was under attack. A third plane hit the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C., and the fourth plane crashed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Almost 3,000 people were killed, including 4 Ghanaians. These Ghanaians were Victor Kwachi, Emmanuel Akwesi Efuakwa, Sophia B. Ado, and Jafet Jesse Ayi. The hijackers were terrorists from Saudi Arabia and several other Arab countries, reportedly financed by the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization of Saudi fugitive Osama bin Laden. They were allegedly acting in retaliation for America's support of Israel, its involvement in the Persian Gulf War, and its continued military presence in the Middle East. Operation Enduring Freedom, the American-led international effort to oust the Taliban in Afghanistan and destroy Osama bin Laden's terrorist network based there, began on October 7. Within 2 months, U.S. forces had effectively removed the Taliban from operational power. Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the September 11th attacks, remained at large until May 2, 2011, when he was finally tracked down and killed by US forces at a hideout in Pakistan in August 2022. The US again killed the successor of Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in a drone strike in Afghanistan. He and Osama bin Laden plotted the September 11 attacks together, and he was one of America's most wanted terrorists. The attacks were followed by initial shocks, causing global stock markets to drop sharply. They also resulted in approximately $40 billion in insurance losses, making it one of the largest insured events ever. West Africa faces an extremely high terrorist threat. The dramatic increase in terrorist activity in the sub-region is primarily due to 2 groups: Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara. Although the territorial presence and activity of Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, particularly Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, was initially limited to the extreme north of Mali, it has now expanded across large areas of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The growing strength of the Islamic State in West Africa has compounded the terrorist threat and contributed to the deteriorating security situation in the sub-region.
And since September 11, there has been growing security threats to Ghana in recent past, prompting the national security to warn Ghanaians to take precautionary measures. Neighboring countries, including Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and Togo, have all been attacked. How is Ghana faring in securing its borders against possible attacks and also its contribution in enhancing regional security? Right, so we are joined by Robert Alexander Budu Labi, physical security professional with ASIS International, for a conversation. So, Robert, good to have you if you are online, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I wish all your listeners and followers and watchers a good evening.
Great. So before we delve into the core issues, what's your initial viewpoint on the September 11 attack? I mean, the killing of Osama bin Laden, and whether it has brought peace, really?
Well, second point, peace is not brought peace. It's rather increased the level of insecurity and terrorist activity because the attacks displaced all these terrorists who were sort of grouped in one area, and the U.S. and Operation Enduring Freedom scattered them worldwide. And as a result, North Africa down to West Africa are suffering the effects of that operation. 9/11 changed the way the world operated. I mean, basically everybody was affected by it. Travelers, I mean, up to now, there are all these security checks when you're traveling in. It's the US took a different view of aid towards Africa and other countries where they realized that issues in Africa, for example, issues of poverty, poor governance, etc., constituted the grounds for terrorist and terrorist activity. So they therefore extended more of security and military cooperation towards this part of the world. 9/11 totally changed the way the world looked, security everywhere, which has sort of affected us. And we also upping up our game to meet this evolving and new threats on our continent.
Right. So, Robert, we are seeing growing activities in terrorism in Africa, Burkina Faso, Kenya, Mali, amongst others. How are those impacting, or these impacting on West Africa and the continent, placing the September 11 in perspective?
Well, it's really impacting on us in terms of economy because scarce resources are being channeled towards military operations, though the French operations, the US operations are helping our military and security forces. We still have to use scarce resources towards such operations. And it's growing day by day. It's growing day by day. We see the threats in our neighboring countries. We see what is happening in Nigeria. We see the increasing reach and stretch of this terrorist group, this fundamentalists all over the sub-region. So it's actually impacting on our sense of freedom, our sense of security, economic prosperity, and general levels of insecurity. I mean, it's the impact, it's multiple and cuts across the gamut of societal development. So it's actually having this impact on us.
So are the African Union and other regional blocs like ECOWAS able to deal with terrorism adequately? Are they doing enough?
You can never do enough because one thing about criminal or terrorist activities, they are always one step ahead of us. The recent incident in Somalia where that hotel was attacked, they are doing their best, but we are limited, constrained in many areas, affecting our security. I mean, basically, security is expensive. Security is about equipping your intelligence and security forces with the appropriate and needed resources, which are not cheap. That's why we are depending on our foreign partners. But we also have our challenges back home in terms of our economies. How much can we take out of our economic growth, economic projections towards security? But it's important because without security, we can't have economic growth. So the impact is wide. I mean, if we take our country, Ghana, for example, I mean, look at our present economic situations. If we were to have series of terrorist attacks, we have to put a lot of resources, scarce resources, into equipping the security forces, first to fight them, second to rebuild, and third, reconstruction of the things that would have been lost, lives, compensations, rebuilding. So we actually facing a multi-hydra creature, and it affects each and every one of us. But I believe AU, ECOWAS are doing their best. There's an increase in cross-border operations. There's increase in military and security operation. The Accra Initiative is a project that is working towards that. They've carried out a couple of operations that resulted in the arrest of about 300 suspected terrorists. So we are actually doing the best with what we have, but it could always be better.
Yes, Robert, can we be really successful with the fight? Because apart from terrorism or terrorist threats to the region, you would realize that there are also election-related violence issues which could also lead to instability in the region. What do you say about that?
We can, good always trumps over evil, but it comes at a cost. Evil will never win if we are resolved to put in the right measures, the right resources to do it. We would overcome, definitely, if the threat comes, we would. If you study the history of terrorism and criminal activity, the two go together. They've never been successful anyway. It would cost, it's expensive. You take the example of Sri Lanka, for so many years, the government won, but its effect is what we see in Sri Lanka now. Various parts of the continent of the world have faced terrorists over many, many years. It's a cost to the country, it's a cost to everybody, but at the end of the day, good will ultimately triumph. And I believe that, yes, our elections, we have problems, election-related violence and stuff, which they can exploit, and they would exploit, because terrorism is an opportunistic activity. They strike where they can, we have soft targets. But I believe with our resolve as a country, our national security leading, and all the security institutions, we can actually put up a good fight when it comes to that.
All right, we're so grateful. Robert Alexander Budulabe, physical security professional with ASIS International, speaking to us there on the occasion of September 11 and the threats to the West African sub-region. Now, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will from Monday, September 12, start a tour of the Volta region. It's a two-day tour anyway, and he will be visiting the Volta region. So the President is scheduled to commission projects, inspect ongoing ones, and also confer with traditional leaders of the area.
On Monday, 12th September 2022, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will attend the opening of the Ghana Bar Association Conference in Ho, followed by an interview session on Stone City Radio. He will then depart to Peve to inspect the progress of work on the Eastern Corridor Road and the Agenda 111 Hospital project, both in South Dai constituency. In Pando, the President will call on the chief of the Akpeni traditional area and inspect the construction of the steel bridge to end the day's schedule. Day 2 of the tour will begin with a visit to the 66th Artillery Regiment Military Barracks in Ho and an inspection of the Ghana Secondary Cities Support Program at the Ho Central Market. President Akufo-Addo will then depart to Aplau to commission the Aplau Community Day School in the Ketu South constituency. He will then proceed to the North Thong constituency to commission the North Thong District Magistrate Court after a courtesy call on the paramount chief of the Bator traditional area to climax his visit to the region.
And so the leadership of the Ghana Private Roads Transport Union has indicated it will soon communicate to the public new transportation fares following the incessant increases in fuel prices. That is just to come here on Newsnight on Metro TV. Stay with us. Right, so as we're telling you before, the leadership of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union has indicated it will soon communicate to the public new transportation fares following the incessant increase in fuel prices. The union says the continuous rise in the price of petroleum products is draining the finances of commercial vehicle owners. The price of petrol per litre has crossed 11 Ghana cedis, and diesel sells now for 14 cedis per litre at most pumps. We are joined by the PRO of the GPRTU, Alhaji Imoro Abbas, for a conversation. Okay, hello Alhaji. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for calling.
Well, we're doing very well, except that the announcement that you want to increase transport fares is always a worry to so many people. Well, it was, but only recently that you increased fares. And is this potential increment really imperative yet? I mean, is this something that is really important for you to do now?
Yes, we came out and said the recent fuel increment is alarming. if nothing is being done, we have no choice than to come up with a new upward adjustment. We have informed the public about the 10% threshold, which we entered since July, and we've been able to sacrifice till July up to today, thinking and hoping something will be done about the fuel prices. We suggested some of the taxes and levies should be taken off. But as it is today, all we are saying is if nothing is being done, we can no longer sacrifice them to our leadership will assemble and whatever decision taken will come out with it.
All right, so Alhaji, when should we expect these increases?
You see, that we've been very, very careful, knowing very well whatever we say or whatever we do will affect the whole nation. So we don't hesitate in any decision taken. Well, probably this week our leadership will meet. Anytime they meet, whatever decision is being taken, we will bring it up. But we are afraid if nothing is being done, from look of things, the possibility of coming up with a new upward adjustment, well, shall be announced.
All right, then. We are grateful to Alhaji Abbas Ibrahim Imoro for speaking to us on this issue. You're watching Newsnight on Metro TV, and let's do some other stories. Now, a 74-year-old man has been burned to death after fire gutted his 5-bedroom house at Aburaso in the Ashanti region. The deceased, who has been identified as Stephen Dapa, is said to be a former Ashanti Regional Director of Audit Service. Eyewitnesses tell Metro News 3 other occupants of the house who have been injured and 1 other who lost consciousness are receiving treatment at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital. Following the incident,
it was 1:30 a.m. that I had a call that there is a house on fire. So I had to quickly call the fire service and give them the direction to the place. I also rushed to this place as well. And when we came, the house was on a blaze. So they also did their best in order to also keep things down. But unfortunately, I think the man was identified to be dead, and he was actually even burnt towards ashes. That is the most painful part of it. I just want to use this opportunity to appeal to the authorities and those concerned that they should really come to our aid, particularly this area. It has been identified and observed that most houses here are being burnt. We can count about 7 houses that has been set ablaze, of which we are not privy to any information about as to the cause of it. Even this one, we cannot even tell what actually caused it. Do get it? So we're just appealing to the authorities involved, okay, that they should actually come to our aid. Then we investigate into issue, not to also cause such a catastrophic issue in our area. Even some of us that we are just eyewitness, if we should put ourselves into their shoes, it is not bearable at all. It's not that easy. Even most of them cannot even speak because this is dumbfounding. Well, let me say, you have relations living abroad, UK, they come just for a visit, and all of a sudden, everything belonging, passport, whatever, just seconds, all set ablaze. It's very painful, and we are just doing our best just to also console them, to give them the necessary hope.
right, the 50-year-old disability Thomas Osanyumo reportedly burned and burnt at Abluchi, a suburb of Agomanya, by unknown persons in the Lower Manya Krobo municipality of the Eastern region. bring you more on that story later. Now, angry chiefs of Kweyman, Damfa and Amrahia have threatened to begin a series of demonstrations against the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, accusing the Ministry of land grabbing. The chiefs have also vowed to sue the ministry. There is more in this report.
It's been over 2 years since the Vice President, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, released a white paper releasing 40% of the dairy farmlands acquired by government without compensation back to its owners from Kweyman, Damfa and Amarhia. However, the joy that greeted the action by the government is being short-lived, accusing government of land grabbing. They allege that the Deputy Minister in charge of lands, Benito Usubio, has allocated over 130 acres of the land to himself.
Police commander police fu enye chu ameke ba shpono ke lance bi na me ba tunu na me small wonye kante shi bibi besi ne ke min threat le ni ke threat le na twa lance bi e anokwale ejepo ke je no se ame ha police fu e pa ba mene ko owusu bio ewe no ti osin keke mo kreme jato keke amba bua wa shpono ke police e ka fi amage yeji wo yi shi ha ke government e wo fen wo chani ni wo ke no ko ba wo fi odin shi na she o ba che tekre wo hin tete je mo ba che tekre wo ga me tekre wo cho ni wo ba che tekre ka me nu ji tekre amele ji tekre ka le ni katamanso abi ebi ko je wa chi ni wo ba pe ni wo ka me ba pe e shipon no ka me gbe wo fen lamba nya me ko shipon sunu be wo mo fu be wo ko wo yaye shika me nya me gbe wo bamba laji e shipon no wo ba gbogbo bi lo ka le katamanso ebi na ton le katamanso wo ke Benito ake eneje ka me te kumasi e nse yue bi e ni chi otufo ta mo ko ga mi no nke na ka me te kumasi na ma do mo otufo ye ka me ne wa me se shika mba she bi e na fi o ma ke kolo ji wo bi e bo ni president se ma je kolo ji wo yi gbe meji wo wo ya wala to me de yo e wale shi ake bule ye wo yi ka bule be e na je bule be no e ko wo fi o na kan.
They are also.
And President Akufo-Addo has vowed to put the economy back on track before the end of his tenure in January 2025. Speaking at the Thanksgiving ceremony of the father of Jospon's executive chairman, Joseph Sianwe Jipon, the president said measures are in place to revive the economy. He also said his government is committed to support private businesses to boost their economy.
Omano abain beboa the titu entrepreneurs, business people, creative people, Wanana, Ghana, Dachino, Eshawansa. Now, Crackray, you may be our war memoir, would be papa yama or mem, or Pemway free a pine of her, Sabai, a Kufado by Eba, a Bebuano, Motimia. Unti kofo bisa mi say ya den na o den yewura Japan zoom line abaya da fo anya da fo adwuma ne yeye na hu se bibi wo ni mu a opese oboa o man na esa no so no me se me de ma ho den eboa no betumi abibi akoyi enyo no ko a bia wo man mu ha ankrakwa adwuma fo a one will be beer, one is a band which me up one my buy a bepwa. Let us in Minim say, Yamaya de Magana for the Sikasem and yet.
Now, the National Democratic Congress youth organizer Hopeful in the Wejak Bawi constituency has led residents on a health walk and free health screening exercise as part of efforts to promote unity and whip up grassroots support for the party within the constituency.
The health walk organized by the New Wager Ward East and West was aimed at keeping members of the party active and united ahead of the party's constituency regional congress. The walk took participants through some principal streets of the constituency. Participants also benefited from a free health screening exercise for malaria, blood pressure, optical and breast-related ailments. Constituency youth organizer Hopeful Vida Akofa Asari stressed that the walk aimed to create awareness of the party's readiness to capture power from the new patriotic party in the 2024 elections. Whilst thanking residents for gracing the event, she also called on constituency and branch executives to be more vigilant in the upcoming parliamentary and presidential elections.
I would thank everybody for coming for the program. It was a successful program. Thanks all the constituency executives for coming on board. Our chairman is on board and all the mobilizers. Thank you all for coming. Right now we are at the second surface of the program, which is the health screening, eye screening, breast screening and all that.
Some participants also spoke to Metro News.
What we have to do as a party is to bring the party together, unite our ranks for victory 2024. NDC has so much to offer Ghanaians. If you look at the People's Manifesto, it's a youthful manifesto and it's a smart manifesto. What I mean smart is that it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic and it's time-bound.
The people's voice must be heard all over the corners of our constituency because development is retired totally. So we are doing this health work to create the awareness for the constituency and sound a strong warning to our MP that we are in need of so many things in this community and we are calling for his help. But if he knows that she can't undertake that, then he should just step down because he doubles as MP and also a health deputy minister.
And the business news for the day is up after the break. Right, although our business stories for tonight, the latest 2022 Human Development Report reveals that for the first time since 1990, some 90% of countries saw their Human Development Index decrease in 2020 and 2021. According to the resident representative at the UNDP Ghana, Angela Lusige, this global decline in human development was unprecedented.
Over the years, the concept of human development has evolved and adapted to include additional components that increases human well-being, freedoms, and opportunities. This year, the Human Development Report themed Uncertain Times, Unsettled Lives, Shaping Our Future in a World in Transformation, focuses on the ways in which new layers of uncertainties are interacting to exacerbate existing crises. According to the resident representative at the UNDP Ghana, Angela Lusige, the report will shape debate on the significance of human life rather than the focus on the economy.
And these reports have helped to shape debates by going beyond income as the sole measure of development, because human development is all about expanding the richness of human life rather than simply the richness of the economy in which human beings live. These human development reports provide us with a snapshot of development, and they also reveal critical concerns that guide governments, public sector decision makers, and other stakeholders. So together we can chart pathways to sustainable development. The aim is to transform the process of human development so that we can create an environment in which people, individually and collectively, can develop to their full potential and lead productive and creative lives that they value.
She further called on stakeholders to help advance proper solutions for human development.
This report will expound more on this time of great uncertainty and worry that we're all living in. We know that all is not well, but all is not lost. We cannot solve today's problems with yesterday's methods, and this is a key message from the report. We need to adopt innovative ways of tackling increasingly complex and interconnected challenges. As UNDP, we've already started exploring portfolio approaches to see how to tackle interconnected and complex development challenges by looking at them through a system lens. We're happy to share our learnings from this process with government and stakeholders as time progresses.
When uncertainty translates into unsettled lives and human insecurity, it can increase.
Also in business tonight, the minority in parliament has cautioned the central bank to desist from operating a fiscal dominance regime in a bid to finance government at all costs, as the act is dangerous to the economy in the short and medium terms.
This comes after the minority's accusation that the Bank of Ghana has wrongfully printed money to the tune of 22 billion Ghana cedis to finance the budget deficit of government. The central bank had previously denied printing money for government, but in the said emergency MPC release, the bank noted in the absence of access to the international capital market and given the constrained domestic financing, central bank overdraft has helped to close the financing gap as reflected in the mid-year budget review. The Bank of Ghana is working with the Ministry of Finance to agree on a cap on the overdraft. According to the NDC caucus, they find the act surprising and incriminating as by law. Bank of Ghana is not mandated to solely decide to finance government in the absence of access to the international market. First, the caucus wishes to state that central bank overdraft is the same as monetary printing in the technical sense, which Bank of Ghana tried to deny earlier as per a statement dated July 26, 2022. Second, given that the Bank of Ghana is now working with the Ministry of Finance to agree on a cap on the overdraft, Bank of Ghana is acting in utter disregard for provisions on the Bank of Ghana Act 2002, Act 612, and the Bank of Ghana Amendment Act 2016, Act 918. There is nowhere in Act 612 and Act 918 where Bank of Ghana is mandated to arbitrarily grant central bank overdraft when there is lack of access to the international capital market coupled with constrained domestic financing. The statement further noted that the Parliament has oversight and must mandate such an exceptional financing of government by the central bank before execution. It however stated that the Bank of Ghana reserves every power to resist instruction from government or any other authority. Therefore, it has full powers in the faces of excessive monetary growth to limit the bank's financing of government. Consequently, the NDC caucus in Parliament hereby wishes to remind the Bank of Ghana again that it has all the independence and powers to engineer and move away from the current fiscal dominance that we are experiencing. Most of its actions in recent times are surprisingly schemed to accommodate financing of government without regard to the negative impact of such dominance. This is undermining the credibility of its policy decisions and needs to be curtailed. The caucus also wants Bank of Ghana to conduct a complete overhaul of its monetary policy framework to improve transparency and credibility, which they say must include publication of its minutes and clarity on its forecasting and policy analysis model.
Now, the president of the African Real Estate Society, Professor Kola Akinsoni, says African entrepreneurs in the real estate sector must embrace an innovative mindset for development. This, according to him, will contribute significantly to the economic development of the African continent.
We are lacking investment in real estate, right? And the reason why some of this are like this is that the regulatory environment is not up to date. They are not regulations that have been put in place for funders from perhaps outside Africa or even within Africa to be able to access real estate as an investment class. That's the beginning of the changes that we want to see in terms of real estate investment within Africa.
Housing markets are complicated markets, but there's one big issue about housing markets, and that is that very few people can afford to buy an entire house. In other words, housing finance becomes critical. For housing markets to work well across the African continent, we have to make sure that the financial markets that serve both developers and those acquiring houses work effectively.
It's News Night, and the sports news is next. And in sports tonight, Premier Club Accra Hearts of Oak started the new football season on a bad note. After losing 1-0 to Ibiana Stars at Doma, Brighton J scored the only goal of the thrilling match, and Samuel Bodu is the coach of Accra Hearts of Oak.
It's very bad to lose such a game. I think the boys did well, and they created a lot of chances, but they squandered all the chances. But it's rather unfortunate that with a little mistake that cost us a goal. So we are not down. We are not down. Even though we have lost the first game, we have to go home. We have to go back and prepare very well so that we can the subsequent matches will do well. I believe that the mistake that we saw it here, we are going back and correct that mistakes, and we have to approach those matches ahead of us.
As the sports, up next is some entertainment news. And in this segment tonight, family of the late Francis Yao Ofori, widely known as Baba Spirit in showbiz circles, is concerned about the circulation of videos of the remains of the deceased on social media by some of his colleagues. The family is demanding for such videos to be taken down, or the culprits would have them to contend with. There is more in this report.
According to the family, Baba Spirit, as he was widely known in the showbiz industry, died after falling ill for a while. At a meeting to plan for the funeral arrangements, the family expressed great concerns over some videos of the mortal remains of the deceased, which has since gone viral after his death on Thursday evening. A video believed to be taken by some colleagues of the deceased has gone viral on social media. The family says it finds the act appalling and disrespectful to their beloved relative and wants it to be taken down by persons who had it uploaded, lest they have them to deal with according to the law. Here are some members of the family speaking to Metro News.
Yaw, why this year? Needing the Yaw for it. Or this year, preoccupy. Udia Kunya, Udia Kunya, or Denchamboso. A traumatic year. And any can say a banessa. What? A quiet fast way by any annual. Ebusiane ni anyo hokora enu nti yebehia na ne esene fata no so yebeye ho adwuma
ade be china se video no enfi online a emra e Ghana no ebusuafo no betu na mama emra no ne sai nipa ko no adi because enum se emra e man Ghana mu a eye adwuma yi pa ye ni onipa na kasa abre a yekoduru ho no mo na mebra no ato no o start so video no ye bo na mane emi mpo na meni nipa me bo na mane se unia ade a wo ye no video na obetwa me sero de watwa kodu na eye ntwa biem na emum de watwa no hwe no afa matwa bontin ye bona mane even asem si yikurampo no ma pen number afle say nipa na mfa ko no es eni aso ana wa ye nti won kan hu sesen ka ye ono na bibisi eto na anka ye ntumi nya ne sa ti esele no ni die mu ala ye de hye no ye mpese na dija beda bontin ye mpese na dija beda bontin.
There is a seeming rift between members of the family and some showbiz personalities believed to be closer colleagues of the deceased over the funeral arrangements. The family is calling on all concerned parties to remain calm as it will have all agreed arrangements communicated in due course.
Ebusiani ye hwehwemu. Sene nsanchiro for mo ye mo hwehwemu da bia na mo nya informations no. Yes ye guso aye ye hwehwemu. Ne ehunu ya ode Sanfoni no eto so na tumi be no wo a ese wodi sanfoni no so eto so na.
We have international news up next. We begin in Tunisia, where at least 11 people are thought to have died in a shipwreck off the coast of Tunisia, with 12 others still missing. Tunisia's Coast Guard rescued 14 people after the boat, which was carrying 37 migrants to Italy, sank on Tuesday. 5 more bodies were recovered on Saturday night, bringing the death toll to 11. More than 1,000 migrants are thought to have died this year attempting to cross the central Mediterranean. And Queen Elizabeth II's cortege has arrived in Edinburgh following a 6-hour journey from Balmoral. Mourners lined the streets as the hearse travelled from Aberdeenshire to the Palace of Holyrood House, where her coffin will rest overnight. A respectful silence fell as people waited for the procession to pass by before they burst into polite applause and cheers. And right, just before we go, here are the headlines again. And today marks 21 years of September 11 terrorist attacks in the United States, claiming almost 3,000 lives, including 4 Ghanaians. And President Akufo-Addo begins a 2-day working visit to the Volta region from Monday 12 September to September 13. And leadership of the Ghana Private Roads Transport Union hints of new transport fares following the incessant increase in fuel prices. And in business since 1990, 90% of countries saw their Human Development Index decrease in 2020 and 2021. And on the international front, Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrives in Edinburgh after being greeted by thousands of people, completing a 6-hour journey from Balmoral Castle. And that's it for this edition of Newsnight on Metro TV. I'm Mr. Money. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again.